our very own, authors, writers, illustrators. Kyle, you have a poetry book. Great. I want you to just pick up one of your favorite poems and...
Certainly, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Absolutely, please do.
The title of my first poem I'll be reading is You Have No Notebook. You have no notebook. Write poems on your skin, on the wet tip of your tongue. Write poems tasting your waters that quench your thirst. Write poems on the walls of your mouth and on your room's walls, turning everything into extension of skin. Write poems on your fingertips, on your shoulder blades, in the place where your mouth is wet, in the palm of your hand, where a map is written, in a poem of etched lines, and a language of skin. Thank you very much.
I don't know, just a few lines. It did something to me. I'm not sure how you received it, really. But just about writing. I love poetry myself. I really love it. I'm still a quiet writer. I'm not bold as you to have published it. I send them anonymously, to get a taste of how is this poem. But here you are. Here you are. We're here to talk about you. How do these things happen? You're just writing? What is it that you write in your poems?
Well, essentially, for me, like a poem, first of all, is an act of communication. Now, to tell the particular story of this particular poem. You see, for me, when it comes to poetry, there's many different ways I'll start writing a poem. For this particular poem, I was speaking to a young writer, and I was saying to her, you know what, you should get a notebook to write your observations as a writer. She said to me, I don't have a notebook. So I started to reply to her, and this was via WhatsApp, and I said to her, you have no notebook, and a poem started from there, from that first line. The poetry took hold of me, and I came with all these lines. You have no notebook. Write poems on your skin, on the wet tip of your tongue, and so forth, because it encapsulated my belief that poetry, it goes beyond the page. It's something that goes into basically into the flesh, into clothing, into a totality of life. So that's what, for example, that poem, that's the story behind that poem. Many other poems will be different, inspirations as well, that I'll get inspired. But basically a poem, it's an act of communication. I believe a poem, even if you're using deep metaphors, but there's a way that the audience, the reader, will feel something, like you yourself said, you felt something, you related to something, that the poem carries this message across. Yes.
Tremendous. People choose, you find a medium in which to write. People write prose, artists as such. They choose prose, they choose poetry, some want to paint, the same thing that you and I think about. Use a particular medium, whether it's watercolor or oils or abstract painting, yeah? So, how did you decide that poetry was going to be your medium? Because I do know you are able to, write very powerfully just by observing.
That's very true. For me, I'm very, very inspired and influenced by images. To be honest, when I was young, I actually wanted to be a painter. But instead of becoming a painter, I became a poet. The inspiration as well behind becoming a poet. When I was 15 years old, I took a book of poetry. It was a century of South African poetry edited by Michael Chapman. I was just scrolling through the pages, and I came across a poet called Wopko Gensma. And when I saw these poems by Wopko Gensma, and I saw these lines, they just came up at me. I thought, wow, this is powerful. This is a way to really communicate meaning, feeling, And from there, I thought, I want to try this thing as well. And I was 15 years old, and from there, I started trying to write poetry. And since then, it's become my obsession, my addiction, my calling, my craft. It's something that there's barely a day that goes by that I do not spend some time with writing, with perfecting this, because it's like a beautiful feeling, this ability to get into words, get into this calling, definitely.
Tremendous. So you say that you're actually perfecting it. It's like an artist, perfecting the lines on that painting. And, the shades and the hues and the choices of colors. You do the same kind of thing. You're painting your poems by, giving it a finesse. You're crafting it daily. What gives you a sense of satisfaction?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because we speak of perfection, but at the same time, I think the great thing about poetry that you can never have a found poem. like I was saying to somebody the other day, I said, you are the beginning of all poems that I've yet to write. That's the feeling I get, there's still so much to do, no matter how many poems you've written, there's always this feeling that there's more to write, there's this feeling of hunger. That's why for me, like poetry, it's a thing that will never ever bore me. So we speak of perfection, yet at the same time, one never finds perfection because with poetry, it's an act of life, an act of like flowing of movement. I think of let's compare it to like a river. Water flows, water moves, it constantly changes, it reforms. And I think with words too, with poems, from each year, each day, each week, each like different time we go, we as individuals, as people, we're always transforming and changing. And I believe like each poem is a new poem to write of like sort of each day. So we speak of perfection, but there's the sense of like always change of life. Life must be in the poem itself.
Great. But it's also the imperfections that are beautiful. Yeah? We see beauty in the imperfections as well. So yes, life is not perfect, or you cannot perfect it enough, but there you are. You come to a pause where you feel satisfied with what you've done. Would you just like to reach out to any other poem that is in your soul that you probably want to narrate or just read out?
The next poem I'll be reading from the book is titled The Wind. There is no place to shelter from the wind. When I build my house, it enters the rooms and the earth's foundations, talking under my feet, discussing history's grudges with the buried and their beds of fertile sand. Once the program for reform is adopted in the moldy skins that scatter like wind and shaking the earth's spine with a firm hand as the dead sleep and discuss and burst trances the singularity and how light falls within the mirror's arms. Nonchalantly, the wind moves in your blood, listening, pulsing, changing within you, an evolving DNA of no words and worlds that become intelligent like open eyes, just staring instead of becoming nations with borders, fences and ideals, discussing air-conditioned buildings to free the chaotic world from its suffering, or a speaker, giving the time and space names recorded in books, a few tense recorded minutes where someone dies. It hides in the ceiling of your house. It chases the sun across the sky. It enters the earth's foundation, becoming a root talking under my feet. It tells your flesh your bone, and your bone your soil, and your soil your spirit, and your spirit your sweat, and finds the earth in your bones, trying to hide from the sky, which is shaking the window and the page like an infection of living chaos that makes you re-examine the word God today. It scatters light everywhere in your mind, even the furthest corners of the page, of the world, of the word, of false destinies and free will. I ran for years like someone else, but it began chasing every word I speak out of my mouth. This wind, suddenly without remorse, before a world of people who have become strangers, accuse me of brilliance, love, and rudeness. It is a name or spirit made into dust, given bones, like a man, like a woman, like a baby, like a president with rhetoric in his mouth. His lips wet by his tongue that have salt and sweat spread on them, as he uses charisma which he knows comes in and out of him like a river and somewhat victory. Sometimes an overblown condom from which fertility escapes blamelessly. Our sprung nerves, not using words to be conscious, like a sexual union, doesn't ask for prayers or sacrifices, but breathes everywhere, everything, everyone, and agrees without saying I agree. This wind is never pure, as nothing is pure. You are not pure. I am not pure. We are it. Thank you.
I don't know. It kind of somewhere touched me. I want to read this again and again. And you have a very beautiful voice.
Thank you very much, thanks.
You really do. And I can now see, the way you were reciting it, you have this wonderful ability to recite. And I can see where the origins of the rap artists come from. Really. Because this was slow rap, if I can call that. But it was slow rap, and I think you linked it. It's your very own, so it's in your soul, really. So, you come from this lovely place in the Midlands.
Yes, currently I reside in Underberg. Though, to be honest, I'm very contemplating on relocating to Durban, my original town of birth, because I just feel the love here. Every time I come to Durban, I feel so much love and so much energy. So I'm extremely tempted. As beautiful as Underberg is, but the love is here, I'm telling you.
Okay. What about those of us who actually want to go to the Underberg to unwind and feel inspired and, be alone and, look for sojourns? What about that? So what's appealing to you about Durban?
Well, look, to be honest...
Is it too much of quiet life? Is there too much of solitude? Because those are the environments in which we need as well for artists, to be there.
Well, I believe it's like we go through different phases in our life.
Correct.
And I think like there's been a lot of benefit of me in being Underberg. I've been through certain experiences I couldn't have gone through anywhere else. And I like feel like, there comes this time in life where you have to go through different changes. And it's just been in this last month, I've received a lot of calls to like events in Durban. This is actually like my fourth event now this month I'm performing in Durban. Which is like, to me, it's like kind of a sign, and I'm just kind of like feeling this thing. Even a couple of recent poems I've written, there's this kind of like, Durban is kind of like this background in my poem. These things are starting to appear in like poems I've written in the last couple of weeks. So I think that in itself is quite a sign, especially with my next collection. There's going to be a lot of that kind of the imagery of the sea, of the city, of the streets. There's that feeling, that ambience that comes up. That I'm feeling it really.
So you're naturally evolving. It's a natural collection. It's drawing you. Durban has its magnetism now. It's just the right place to be in for you. And you've published in various journals. And talk to us about that. Yes.
Well, definitely, it's quite an important part, obviously, as a writer to try and, submit to many journals, because that's one way also of like testing your level, of getting a bit more recognition. And to be honest, you're going to receive a lot of rejections, when it comes to writing. I've experienced many, many rejections, I'll be honest, there's one magazine where I submitted 8 times, I got accepted on the 9th time, And that's how it happens. Other magazines you might get accepted very, very quickly. But the thing about writing, it's often people might view it subjectively. Maybe some people might not see, maybe feel the way of the language. Sometimes also in our sort of literary context, I think very often the literary circles are a bit afraid of experimental writing. They're very afraid of something that's experimental or radical. Very often there's it's a very kind of restricted kind of academic view of writing, and sometimes it does restrain when it comes to a lot of these magazines. They have very narrow views, but there are certain magazines obviously that have a very open view. They're very open to experimental writing that really speaks about reality and that. And for me as a writer, I'm a writer what they class experimental. Though to be honest, I don't know what experimental means. I'm just a writer, end of story. Experimental is just one of those labels that people, they like to label you as a writer. They always put labels on you. They say you're this writer, you're that writer, but I'm just a writer, that's it.
What strengthens you? How do you accept this rejection? And what keeps you there?
Well, for me, the thing that keeps me there is that there's just so much enjoyment out of writing. There's so much love I feel in writing. That's what keeps me going. It's just that feeling when you get done, you spend time with writing. If I haven't done much writing recently, you feel hungry for it. I even feel slightly irritated if I haven't done enough writing recently. I get this feeling I need to do my call it therapy or whatever, or just my activity, my play activity. Because even for me about writing, there's a playful aspect about it as well. Because I often say to people, people often look at writing, they look at it overcritically. I say, don't look at it overcritically if you're a young writer. Enjoy it first. Enjoy playing with the language, the feel of the words. Enjoy that taste, because there's a taste, there's a color in words. That's the first thing, and that for me, even if things are not going that well, but it's just that beauty of playing with language. When you look at words, even that poem that you've been writing for months and you can't perfect it, there's so much beauty and fun about it, because to get it right, it's like this puzzle, it's just this challenge that keeps you going.
A therapy and an addiction, really. We've heard this from various authors over the past 2 days, and I think that sense of determination to keep going to the same publishing house and only to be accepted the 9th time. What is it that they saw in the 9th time that they didn't see 8 times over?
Well, that's an interesting question. We were speaking about now, first of all, individual poems, being submitted to magazines. Now, coming to my actual collection, my collection of poems. Now, I took a decision there to actually self-publish it. Not so much on the aspect of rejection, but I thought to myself, I know what type of writing I'm aiming at. I've written for many years. I know the kind of collection I want to do. I know the poems I want to do. I know the experimentalism, or what they label experimentalism, that I want to put in. So I thought there's a chance, first of all, maybe many traditional publishing houses would be afraid of that kind of thing. I thought, rather let me take that risk. The second reason why I've also gone the self-publishing route, for me, I always say there's a moral dilemma around piracy, for example. We say piracy is wrong, okay, fine. But now what happens when you have a poor person that wants a book? To me, are we going to criminalize that poor person? I'll give you the example, going slightly off the topic maybe, but I've always thought about, let's say the Zahara CDs. I mean, there are probably hundreds of thousands of pirated Zahara CDs, but those CDs, they've given hope to people, because people who basically, they're not really going to be able to afford CDs, they're just struggling to like be alive, basic living expenses. But that's a horror CD. It's the kind of thing they play and it gives them hope to go through life. So I think as a writer, that's like also the moral dilemma. For me, that's the reason, like, also I've self-published because it gives me control over my work. If I see somebody that they want a book and they don't even have the money, I can give them a book. Because that's a key thing to me, because you've got to strike a balance between, as a writer, making a living. Because I always say, I want to make a living. I don't need to make a killing. So that's what I want to do as a writer. Make a living, not a killing. Thanks.
Right. Yes, it's not easy to survive as a writer. However, that is what you want to pursue for the rest of your life, it seems. Is it easy to self-publish?
Well, look, when you like really get down to it, it's not that difficult really. Because the key things obviously is like, obviously the design of the book, editing the book. For me it was like the sequence of the poems. I had a good idea of what like order of poems I wanted in the book, and then basically like the cover that this copy unfortunately is the first print edition. I've got the second print edition, which is the Adams books. That's what the press finds. I recommend there's quite a few copies of Adams books. I think they're available for 100 or 120 rand. There's a couple of copies there. And this is a copy I just keep for myself, and
you're a recording artist.
That's correct. In 2013 I recorded an album of poetry with music titled Influences.
Tell us more about it.
Basically with that album it was poetry but with various genres of music, and even to be honest a lot of like what some people might not call poetry. For example, I did a quite a track, some people would say that's not poetry, but I felt in that track there was poetry as well, because it was a poetry I was talking about like things that I've experienced in my life. So there were different genres of music in it. It was quiet, so there was a bit of Afro pop, a bit of Afro jazz, so it was very kind of like different and unique album. Not a commercial success at all, definitely not a commercial success, but I enjoyed it. It was a good experience and there was some beautiful music that came out of it.
So you're discovering yourself in another medium altogether.
Definitely, and I think that's the most exciting thing, because like even myself, like for example, one day I'd like to become a painter, for example, that's the kind of thing, but it's just that I'm so busy like with words. I'm painting with words at the moment. There's so many pictures, I still need to paint with words, so once I've painted a lot of those pictures, I think I'll get paint and learn to paint as well.
For me, I just see it as sort of a wonderful transition from one medium to the other. I can just see, from the way you narrate, that it's just evolving you, and it's this wonderful adventure that you're undertaking. And whether it's your move from Midlands to the city of Durban, or whether, from writing poems, wherever you're writing, into the recording studio, and then you're participating in festivals. How have you been received there?
Well, in festivals, I've generally received quite a good response in festivals, because my belief, like I've always said to people like at one festival, in fact it was last year at the Essence when I launched the book, they asked me, they said like, what audience do I write for? And I said, there's no specific audience I write for people. I don't have an audience that I write for. I'm not like writing maybe for like a literary circle or for this person's like a group. I write for people. It's a universal kind of thing. I write from my particular experiences, but there's this universal aspect that goes direct to people. So the response is very, very good.
So you've participated in the Midlands Festival and in Franschhoek, and how have the experiences been? Because there are two different levels.
Well, definitely, different festivals you do get different vibes. Like for example, like I'll be honest, like there's a great vibe this festival. This festival, very good vibe. Franschhoek was a nice festival, but also like the town, like at that time, I'll be honest, I had very little source of income. So going into the town of Franschhoek, it was like, there were some nice things, but it was like also, it was like a bit kind of scary. Like you go around and that said I was like pretty broke. Then you like look at buy a small coffee, and then I thought, yo, this town, the festival is kind of interesting, but it's a bit like, beyond my means, and at the same time, it's like Franschhoek, now you've got this little town in that, and whereas like Durban now, the thing I like, there's a lot of access to everything here, so that's like an advantage, and I always believe like festivals, there needs to be access to people, they need to be close to people, that's a key thing.
Great. I just came across this wonderful poem called, it's a very short poem, and with your permission, I'd like to read it. I'm probably not going to do as well as you do, but geometry. They say that the shortest distance between 2 points is called a straight line. But I linger long, oh so carefully, over the curve of your body.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful, and it just conveys many emotions, many things. You think poetry is a house without walls.
Definitely.
That's what you said.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, the inspiration behind like house front walls. You know, my view, I look at poetry, it gives us a home. But it's not the kind of home that like restricts us, you know, not the kind of home that like closes us in, that's with walls. It's this home that gives us the freedom to be, this home that's the space of like flux of being, of continuous change. It's the opposite of, let's say, like if you look at the world, in the world you've got borders, you've got fences. Poetry isn't like that. Poetry, there's no borders, there's no fences. Poetry is a thing that becomes universal, it's international. You know, you can't restrict poets. Poets are like of one brotherhood. I remember in 2014 at Poetry Africa, the beautiful experience of having poets from all different like countries. When you're there, you're not aware of nationality. Nationality is not the thing that matters. You're just aware of the nationality of writers, of human beings, of poets. And I think that's the thing about poetry. It reminds us of like our common humanity.
Is that why you have been published in many countries?
Maybe it could be, but I think it's definitely
Yeah.
It's
So
humanity.
which countries? You know, I hear that you've been published in India, in the literary journals in India. In which other countries?
Yes, in India, in a journal called Graffiti Kolkata Broadside, in America, in an Enemy Sidecar, and then there's going to be a forthcoming publication in I think it's in England. It's called Unoa Review.
Tremendous.
Thank
and
you.
all of this happened over how many years?
Well, it's definitely not the case of overnight success. Like obviously, a lot of the things that have been put like in magazines have been over the last 5 years. But as a writer, I've been writing for 15 years.
So, Kyle, what strengthens your soul?
Well, for me, what strengthens my soul, for example, like when I was standing, like this morning, I'm standing by the hotel room. I'm looking over Durban. What I see like so many things of like beauty. I see, you know, when I walk in the streets, I see people. I always say to people, like, for me, my like religion is not really a religion of like pastors or of leaders or presidents, but it's a religion of seeing God in other people. That experience when you talk to people, you see like God in people's eyes. You know, like even the Bible says the kingdom of heaven is in your heart. So my belief is when you're talking to other people, you're feeling that thing, that feeling that kingdom of heaven. And that's the thing that gives life. You connect with other people. You connect with nature. You connect with just like existence itself. You know, when you think about it, just the fact that you're alive is miraculous when you think about it. You know, the odds of being alive, just being alive or breathing, of existing, it's something to be intensely grateful for.
So you're a deeply spiritual soul.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I don't see you as a religious soul, but a deeply spiritual soul.
I guess so, yes.
That's great. Beautiful. I'm sure those of us who are sitting here with rapt attention, listening and enjoying the unfolding of a poet's life in our midst, would you like to ask some questions to him? Anything?
Hi, I'm somebody who understands poetry much. I often thought like you had to have a lot of background information before you can appreciate poetry. And I'm just curious, Miriam read that verse. Would you read it, please? Because it sounded so musical. And I'm thinking it's like just like songwriting, you know. And how would you read it? And I often think that you could understand it because it sounded so musical, and it's made me look at poetry a little bit differently. I never quite got poetry. I thought, you know what, this is too complex, and why couldn't they just write simple sentences that were understandable? But it's like now that I've heard it, I think it's like a basic step before somebody becomes like a songwriter. And I've got to view it a little bit differently. And it's like how you say the words that actually matter.
Well, you know, definitely.
I'm sorry, this is my point.
Well, definitely, for example, like Garcia Lorca, he always felt that like a poem, yes, was written, but also meant to be like read, to like be recited, you know, because my belief as well, like in poetry, in really good poetry, there's going to be a kind of music. Not the same music to each poem, there's a different type of music you'll get. Now mine could be possibly influenced by maybe like a kind of jazzy kind of feel, because there is that kind of influence, like for example, apart from my album, I do a lot of collaboration like with guitarists, and like recently at Peter Maritzburg on Friday, I did a collab with an acoustic guitarist, Lisby, you know. And basically what we do, we don't even really do much rehearsal or anything, we just like do one like run beforehand, and then we do it. So what I'll do, I'll read this poem quickly. They say that the shortest distance between 2 points is called a straight line. But I linger long, oh so carefully, over the curve of your body. Thank you. Thanks.
Lovely. Who inspires you? Which of the poets inspire you? You mentioned Garcia Lorca. I love him. I really love him. And tell us more about him and many of the other poets that inspire you.
Well, definitely one thing about Garcia Lorca, apart from his poetry, there's something I'm very inspired when he speaks of the duende, you know, that kind of like feelings. He said it's like deeper than the muse, you know, it's this like feeling, it's like, it's hard really to define. But he says the duende, you know it when you experience it. There's this like, for example, if you're watching like music, there's like this kind of chill you get, there's like something that like just transfixes you, it's like, it's so hard to like define, but duende, it's this thing, you can't really, it's beyond defining, but you feel it. You know, you feel it like in a performer, or you read a poem, it's got something like, as I mentioned about Wopko Jensma, that would be an example of duende. It like just came up to me, it like compelled me, you know, even though I was not really looking for anything, but it just fixed my attention. So like Garcia Lorca, definitely like a poet that I deeply admire. A lot of South African poets, like a lot of underrated South African poets, guys like Setlamo Motsapi, I'm a great admirer of him, he's a very, very underrated poet. Olusegun Yezwa, another very great poet. Ike Bonini Mvela, very, very good poet. You know, often very misunderstood by like the academia, because the academia tend to they're looking for somebody who like writing sort of conventional kind of English, you know, the whole kind of thing. But guys like that, they're like, again, it's like with that label of experimentalism, like myself, you know, we're looking at reality. We're talking about reality. We're not going to like sort of certain conformist patterns. We visionaries, we explorers, we play with language, we feel language, we play with those kind of things with communication. So that would just be like a few, and then obviously also internationally, I like somebody like Cesar Vallejo. I love the way like he works with words. It's something so powerful, you know. It's a completely different type of poetry, you know. And I think he was like one of the great like poets of the 20th century. There's so many other poets that really I like just admire, because for me as well, it's apart from admiring individual poets, it's also about the poem itself. Sometimes, you know, it's you just find like great poems. Even might not be a poet that's your favorite, but there'll be this poem that's just powerful. So for me, I'm always open to like new experiences, to different poems, to different genres and styles.
Kyle, am I being simplistic by saying that do not judge, just enjoy right from your soul, whatever it is? Am I being simplistic? Because people, you know, academia do a metamorphosis and analysis, but just write, but just read and don't interpret and just enjoy is what I'm saying, as one poet to another.
Well, definitely what I say, definitely as a writer, that's where everything starts, you know. It starts there, as I mentioned earlier. It's the play with words. It's that feeling of words. It's like, think of it, even words is like a game. It's like this beautiful kind of thing that has this like sort of jouissance about it, you know, this kind of playfulness. It's not like this thing that's in a square box. That's the first step. Then I also think in terms of academia, sometimes academia, they don't like look at a work for its particular merits. Like for example, right now I'm busy writing a sort of a research paper on Isabella Motadanyani, who's again another very underrated writer, extremely underrated. And for me, the key thing, like you look at the writer, look at their strength, what are they actually trying to do? Don't look at them like through like the prism of maybe a 19th century or 20th century very academic kind of English poet. Like don't look at it through like W.H. Auden or that kind of like sort of F.R. Leavis kind of like school of criticism. You need to look at it in its context. That's the key thing, you know.
Tremendous. Any more comments, questions from you? Yes, please.
Thanks. It's quite interesting. As I understand what you guys are saying, is it's poetry is evolving. So in a way, you will have your typical poetry, but I think you are encouraging people to let go and be creative as they write their stories through poetry. But I would also say the passion and the creativity plus the skill will give the greatest poetry. But one area where I'm happy, even so when you do the activation, you guys, you write, don't only recite. And I still want to emphasize that some of the young poets, they've written their work sitting in their heads and somewhere in certain papers, but not for the indulgement of the broader community. So as you guys go along, encourage people to produce the poet in the form of writing. Then you come and launch their books of poetry, instead of them just reciting the poetry for us. So where maybe you might have in one day just a launch of, enjoying poetry, but also launching the books of the poets. That will be the biggest joy of my life,
Exactly.
especially when you look at the young ones. They need to write it and preserve it, so that at the end of the day, after a year, when maybe you are no more reciting, at least we still remember you. So please encourage your counterparts to say, please write, and also come to us at the end of the day to say, yes, you have written, so can we give us a platform besides reciting?
That's a very good point you made, because I think it's something very powerful. I mentioned recently to somebody that like in Durban I'd actually like to start like a writers group and encourage a lot of like poets to be part of that writers group, because what tends to happen like from, let's say, like a lot of poetry like shows in it, obviously there's, as you mentioned, there's the emphasis mainly on performance, but there's not much emphasis on the writing craft, because both things have to balance each other. It's a very, very good point that you've like brought up, and that's the exact kind of thing I was thinking about the other day. I was saying to somebody, we need to start that kind of thing, because it's great, you've got that performance, but it's as artists, we need to continue trying to lift our skill level, and the way to lift the skill level obviously is like looking at the writing in it. And I think that's a key thing. Obviously, at poetry sessions, that thing can be a bit lacking, because sometimes they'll emphasize more on like the performance side. But if you take those words and put them on the page, some of the words obviously are going to be a bit weaker, because they might not have that same impact. It might just be the way they like sort of like pronounce it or say it, and it sounds nice. But put it on the page, it doesn't have those like layers of meaning. I always think of like the poet N.P. van Wyk Loo.